In a remote corner of the world, there was a continent blessed with abundant natural resources, a mild climate, and a vibrant population. However, despite all these advantages, the continent was plagued by poverty and social inequality. The rich were getting richer, while the poor were getting poorer. One day, a group of scientists decided to investigate the causes of this disparity. They discovered that corruption was the main factor preventing the continent from developing. Corrupt politicians and businessmen stole public money, leaving the population without access to basic services such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Scientists also discovered that corruption was not only a social problem, but also a neurological problem. Studies showed that corrupt people had changes in certain areas of the brain, which made them more prone to unethical behavior. Scientists called this condition neurocorruption. They believed that neurocorruption was one of the main factors preventing the continent from developing. Scientists shared their findings with the public, hoping that they would help fight corruption. However, corruption was so ingrained on the continent that it was difficult to eradicate it. Despite the challenges, scientists continued their work. They developed new techniques to identify and combat neurocorruption. They also worked to educate the public about the dangers of corruption. Thanks to the efforts of scientists, corruption began to decline on the continent. People began to demand more transparency and accountability from their leaders. Corrupt politicians and businessmen began to be held accountable for their crimes. The continent finally began to develop. People had access to better public services and a better life. The economy began to grow and poverty began to decline. The history of the continent is an example of how science can help fight corruption. Neurocorruption is a real condition that can be treated. Over time, it is possible to create a more just and equitable world for all.